I am here because one of my 7th grade students won the 7th grade Poetry Foundation contest this year. Her poem is about people in general and their place in the world, and then what her place in the world is as well. She talks about it being small, but then by the end of the poem she realizes, of course, that it really is big. I saw excitement, I saw good-natured competitiveness coming out of my students for writing poetry. I think it was a great thing just to see, like I said, just them being excited about winning and writing the best and talking about it together outside of class. Sometimes I supervise lunch and they were talking about it at lunch as well, just being excited about it. So I like that part of it, the excitement. Well, I'm lucky because one of the units in our literature class is all about poetry. So they were exposed to poetry last year, of course, in 6th grade, and then again this year in 7th grade. And we got rid of some of those ideas that poetry has to rhyme, or poetry has to be romantic or high and lofty and that kind of thing. You know, we talk about Dr. Seuss and we just make it really simple so that it's not scary for the kids. And then even some of my boys, you know, they've accepted that it can be done and it's not impossible. And when we introduced it at first, they said, you know, I can't rhyme, I don't like poetry, it's mushy, or things like that. But our literature curriculum actually I really love, and it introduces it as a really simple thing, and it doesn't have to be something Shakespearean. The value that it brought to my classroom was exactly what I said, just that level of excitement. I teach at a really small school. I have 10 7th graders right now, and what one student is doing, all of the other students are very aware of. And she, the student who won, just had a contagious level of excitement and got some kids who maybe wouldn't want to volunteer in doing the contest to do it because she was excited about it, and they fed off of that. And then several other kids fed off of that, and you know, my whole school is back at school right now. We're going to tune in tonight to watch her because they're so excited about what took place. And it started with poetry. So they have a new understanding of poetry and how exciting it can be. I think it can just translate to so many aspects in life. You know, if you can understand and break down a poem that you think is really, really hard by an author that you might think is really, really difficult, and you come to an understanding of that, I think it can build confidence. I think it can help kids process things outside of school and see things differently and understand figurative language and just all kinds of value in poetry and understanding it. It can have an emotional impact on students, definitely. It can help students to realize different ways to put their emotions into, or different words to put their emotions into. It helps them realize emotions that they maybe didn't know they had. It also helps them to see, especially in middle school, when we can read student models of kids, you know, from our own kids' age, that they can see they're not the only ones that feel that way. It's encouraging for them to know, I'm feeling sad today, and is that okay? Look at the 7th grader. He wrote a poem about feeling sad too, so that's okay. Or I'm feeling, you know, anxious today, and that's okay. I just think it's good for them to understand and see other people's feelings because you just don't do that in everyday language, usually. Listening to students share their emotions in different ways. I have 8th graders right now who are writing poems as well, and they're just expressing themselves in very unique ways, and they do that through poetry. They're not going to sit down and write prose in the same way that they're writing poetry, and especially when you can get them to compete with one another in a good-natured way, it just encourages writing poetry.